I'll stop saying hi to everyone then. I was just saying, Caroline, I frequently need to call on people and then can't remember if they actually joined the Zoom meeting or not. So I was hoping acknowledging everyone's entrance would help me remember. All right. Does anyone have corrections to the previous minutes? Any corrections? All right, there being no corrections, the minutes are approved as written. We can move along then to the next portion of our agenda, which is the executive report, starting with our president, Miles Middleton. Let me share my screen with you all. 1 second. Sorry, y'all.
All right, perfect. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope you all had fun too. I hope you guys got to be able to see the UH60s come onto campus. That must have been fun to hear and watch. I think a couple of our senators here were able to ride on it. Just a few updates. So just continue to sign up for the naming committee. I'll put the link in the chat here and also in our student government chat. We just need people to sign up more. There's a lot of space left, so we're just trying to get that filled up. And then, of course, today marked the day to start getting signatures for the election. Packets are due April 6th, and then before the candidates meeting, and then April 2nd, which is our next deadline or start of a deadline for offering campaign offers for people to serve on your campaign teams. And then from there, you just have to so for that day specifically, if you're offering somebody to be to be on your campaign staff, you have to email myself, Victoria, and Meredith Resplica in order for them to know who's on your campaign staff for that week for your campaign. Also, just another kind of thing. When you're signing the elections packet virtually, send that to Meredith Resplica as well, so she has confirmation that you've signed the packet beforehand. Keep sending your signatures to myself and Victoria, and then if there's any other major questions, I'm just gonna leave time for questions. Really, if there's any other major questions, let me know right now about the elections and signatures and stuff like that.
If you have questions about elections, can you please do the raise hand function?
So for all you to know, okay, Rory raises his hand. Yep, Rory.
Hey, sorry, I was just wondering, where is the elections packet? Am I just an idiot for not having seen it? I tried to find it on the student government website, but 2021 is up there, not 2021.
Yeah,
it's on the link tree and the Instagram, but we definitely can get it added to the website.
I don't have an Instagram, so that would be amazing.
Okay, Thank you. I can send it to you, Rory, until we get it up there.
Appreciate it.
And just a reminder, when you're doing your flyers or whatnot for campaigning, the election is going to be on the link. So just remember that. Victoria.
Everyone that was having issues accessing the packet today, is that going well? Is there anyone that still can't access it? Okay, cool.
Everybody can access the packet.
Clarifying question, especially for those freshman senators who haven't run a whole class campaign yet. The template we're supposed to use is on the elections packet, correct? And they should include their class year, not their residence hall necessarily.
Yes. No residence hall class year this time, freshmen. For the freshmen, to reiterate, for freshmen, you're not running in your dorm anymore. You're running class-wide. So you're going to have to campaign on a bigger scale.
And for exec positions, it doesn't have to just be people in your grade.
Raj. Any other questions? Okay. If there's anything else, do not text anybody else on exec but myself or Victoria or Meredith, who's now on the elections committee, or Mackenzie. Those are the only 4 people in student government that you should be texting if you have questions about the elections. Okay. If there's not any other questions, Allie.
Any other questions for Miles more generally? All right, if people start looking at the elections packet throughout Senate and you come up with more questions, we can do those back on the end at constituent concerns. So just for my update, we're doing Deacon Dining Appreciation on Friday. It's looking like it's probably going to be at like 4:30 in the afternoon. PR is getting ready to post some things. It's a co-sponsorship with the Resident Hall Association and with BSA. So it's unclear right now exactly how volunteering will go. We're kind of trying to get feedback from Mr. Wise on whether he wants us to hand them out or just drop them off. Physical planning can probably touch on that a little bit more, but just know that's happening on Friday. There are other student organizations that want to do food trucks. So I just want to let you guys know that, you know, more groups are trying to do the food truck thing. They're following suit. Faculty Appreciation Week is next week. I know it's going to be campaign week at the same time, but please, please, please don't let Faculty Appreciation Week fall by the wayside. Our faculty members have kind of moved heaven and earth for us over the last year with the pandemic and trying to give us quality instruction in like part virtual, part in person. So just remember that that's next week. And then Earth Week is coming up shortly as well. And last thing, you know, Miles just touched on how there's elections coming up. The semester is quickly gonna come to its fruition. And so if you have legislation or ongoing projects and you have not already told me about them, it's really important that you reach out and do let me know that you have those upcoming so we can schedule them in. We don't want to have 1 week with 3 hours worth of Senate just because there's 7 different pieces of legislation that I didn't know were coming and we couldn't space them out. So please just let me know sooner rather than later. Any questions?
Hold on, I just have something else to mention. For the campaign week also, I know that there are people who are running for exec positions and, you know, co-chairs that are running for probably exec positions or senator again. Do not slack off if you have stuff to do, and don't let your position currently fall to the wayside during the election. I know that it's a very stressful process and that it's a very ongoing process, and obviously there's a lot going on, but do not stop working from your position, please, and thank you. Take it seriously.
Any questions from our report? All right, Victoria.
Hi guys, just more on elections. If everyone wants to just put my number in their phone, I loved hearing from a lot of you today and I want you guys to like feel free to ask questions, reach out. I will find an answer for you. I'm only in 9 hours. I'm really bored. So this is like exciting. I get to do something. But something that we didn't mention on Miles' slide, but is really important. So I sent the message in the group me yesterday about how you can send your signature form in existing groups as long as you add that disclaimer. You also need to tell me what groups you sent them in. So some of you have been doing a really good job. Just as you send it, you shoot me a text. Some of you haven't done that yet. So just whenever you can, please just let me know what groups they're sent in, just so we do kind of have a record. And I know there was a question earlier today. You can't have like your friend send your form in another group because that would count as campaign staff. And like Miles said, those can't be extended until Friday. So if there's any question about like sending the form out or anything, feel free to ask it, but it is really important that you let me know like what groups you sent the form. And it doesn't have to be like every person in the group. It's just like, if it was me, I would say I sent it in the 80 Pi group me, I sent it in the Catholic community group me, I sent it in a Panhandle group me. Like that's enough description for me. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Victoria? All right, Caroline, do you have a report?
Yeah, nothing really new. But the midterm report went out last week with everyone's attendance record for committee meetings and Senate. And that also included your extracurricular participation. So a lot of you still need to get extracurriculars. So it's really important that in the coming weeks you sign up for some of the extracurricular opportunities. As always, there will be SG socials every week. There will also be opportunities coming up with like Deacon Dining Appreciation Day and Faculty Appreciation Week and Earth Week. So make sure you sign up for volunteer shifts and support the great work that other committees are doing in student government. And then as another extracurricular opportunity, if you want to join me and Dr. Elizabeth Pierce from the Program for Leadership and Character, we are holding an ecological citizenship discussion group in Campus Garden weekly on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. And that's also an extracurricular opportunity and a great way to spend some time outdoors and learn more about environmental issues.
Any questions for Caroline? All right, Drew.
Thanks. So thank you to everyone who came to PLS. It was a great success. Thanks to Director Scott of the Program for Leadership and Character. And the Hatch Photo was also great. He actually emailed me saying how wonderful it was, and he really wanted to show it to Julie Hatch. And she really loved it. So thanks to everyone who contributed. If you want the link, it's in the group me, but keep up the amazing work.
Questions for Drew? Okay, our lovely advisors, Tim Wilkinson and Shauna McNeil. And Tim, I added the N back into your name this week.
You know what? I always appreciate the respect that comes with having one's name spelled correctly. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Tim. Good evening. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Wilkins.
I hope you're all having a good week. So my updates probably, hopefully you've all seen the latest communication from the university regarding gathering sizes today. So as of Saturday, we will officially be going to 50 indoors and 100 people outdoors. In all honesty, from an indoor perspective, it probably sounds a little bit more dramatic than it is, knowing at this point that the rooms that are set for 25 versus 50 aren't going to change much. It's some of our larger rooms. Check Deacon Space and you'll see which rooms they are. But rooms like Pew, 401 as that comes back online, etc. It'll make a bigger difference outside. Some of the events coming up on Manchester, for example, we're going to hopefully have 200-300 students because we'll be able to section things off. But if you are thinking about an event with a larger capacity, make sure that you submit your paperwork through the event planning process because it's going to be imperative that we review it, simply because there are some challenges that come with it. For example, from a physical distancing perspective, there are events now we're going to have to rent chairs versus blankets. It's something that doesn't sound as complicated as I'm making it, but event planning is going to be important. We remind groups, especially off campus, 100 people for an outdoor event doesn't mean, all right, we can now shove 100 people in the backyard of a house. We've got to think about physical distancing. So obviously that's something that we're working with students and with PD to remember. Residence life and housing, while I cannot report back on balconies yet, I can report back on kitchens. Kitchens will be opening on a modified use basis as of Thursday, April 1st. Residence life and housing will be sending out more guidelines because obviously that's going to be a little bit case by case, depending on the kitchen, depending on the residence hall. I believe there's going to be, like a check-in shift process, but you'll get more from move out. My Lord, we're talking about move outs. That information is also in there, as well as information on housing selection. So please make sure that you share that email with your constituents. If you have specific questions, as usual, oftentimes I won't immediately have an answer, but I can get the answer. So I'm going to assume for a second you all saw that. You know what? I'm not going to assume that. It came out around 5:17. So you may or may not have seen it. So are there any preliminary questions?
No questions for our lovely advisor, Tim Wilkinson?
Sam, I just have a quick question. Is there any update on student unions concert? Is there anything like they've decided fully yet?
I believe we've preliminarily decided on an artist. Would you like to know who it is?
Sure.
Well, you can wait for the email to come out. Sorry,
It's not going to be Provo.
It's little moments like that that get me through the year. We are finalizing. I mean, it's safe to say that we're going to have a concert on the 17th on Manchester. We actually had a meeting today to work out the details because there are quite a few. It will be a virtual concert. The artist will be on a screen or several screens based on what we're putting together. And that's simply because artists at this point still aren't really traveling. But it's going to be, I think, a pretty cool experience. So bear with us for a little bit longer. We're working through the details. TEDx Wake Forest will be on Manchester on the 10th. We're working those details out as well. We're also working now on an LDOC program with athletics, and we're bringing Campus Rec in. I will be back in touch with that sooner rather than later because I think we're going to want some thoughts from y'all. But we had a pretty cool meeting with athletics this morning, talk about some possibilities. I'll also be coming back to you sooner rather than later to get some thoughts and perspectives. So we've talked briefly in the past about the Winston-Salem church school property that we purchased a few years ago. We are going to be utilizing that next year for student organization space, at least for a year, because we know that a lot of space on campus is going to be wrapped up in the academic space. Obviously our commitment is to in-person classes first, but student org space and event space has not been forgotten. So there is a group that's been brought together to conceptualize what 1 year would look like in that property. We're going to want some student perspectives rather quickly because it's going to be a quick turnaround time. So I will be back in touch soon with more details. We had our first meeting about that this morning. So we want to make sure that there is student organization programming space for the fall semester, and there will be. It may actually end up being more space than we normally have. And we want to make it a 1 year commitment for now because we know we have a new university president coming in, and I don't think big picture decisions make sense until the new president comes in and she's able to share her vision and make some decisions. More to come on that. That's all I have for now. Questions?
Questions for Tim? When you say student organization space, do you mean like for reserving for daytime activities, or is there any barn-like component to the space?
I wouldn't say don't quote me on barn-like component. I'm still learning. I've been in the space a couple times, but when we're talking physical distancing guidelines, I couldn't give you definitive on that yet. I think the better descriptor is 401 type events as opposed to barn-like events. And I think we'll also be talking about, at least for a year, some lounges for student orgs, based on the available space. I will be coming with more details.
Victoria?
I'm sure that SBAC could also come up with some ideas because most of the stuff that we hear is like there's not storage space. We're paying for off-campus storage units and stuff like that. So I can send some stuff your way.
That would be great. I can tell you that part of, I mean, if you think about, obviously you've not been in the space, it's essentially an elementary school. So think about elementary school classes and a lot of general. So elementary school classes as potential lounge space and storage space. And then, kind of multi-purpose space. Like if you think about, go back to your elementary school days, there's a cafeteria, there's a gym, in most schools, there's a large multi-purpose space. This is not dissimilar from that. So I actually think it's a pretty good alternative, knowing the space crunch we're going to have next year with in-person classes. We'll also still have, we've not made it official yet, but we're going to keep the Fireside by Manchester space in some way, shape, or form. So we're still going to be working with our outdoor spaces, and we're still looking to bring a good amount of tents back to campus because those have been successful. I think the biggest challenge with the space is going to be for indoor events next year. We're going to have to do a little more walking than we're used to, but that's good. It's well-being. It keeps us. Other short-term questions? All right. Thank you all.
All right, we can move on to academic.
Everyone, so we've pretty much finalized the schedule for Faculty Appreciation Week. It starts next week. The only kind of event that we may need help for is on Thursday from 2:30 to 4:30, but we'll send out more information about that towards the end of the week. Other than that, we had a meeting about foreign language expansion on Monday. It's going to be a long process. We probably won't be able to take any big real action on it until next semester just because of time constraints at this point. And Ethan and I are working on updating information on the Wake Forest website about the honor code, specifically as it relates to cheating and academic misconduct. So more to come on that.
Questions for academic? Campus life?
Hey guys, so Caroline and I had a very productive meeting with Vice President Rue this past week. I can go through the first couple of points, and I'll let her go through the last couple. So she told us why COVID vaccinations are not on the COVID dashboard. And that's because the school has no way of validating our vaccines. They're not able to tell if we're actually vaccinated or if we're lying. So that's why they're not posted. And she said vaccine, like requiring students to get vaccines, it's very tricky legally because it's technically not completely approved by the FDA. It's just for emergency use only. So they can't technically yet, like this semester, require all students to get vaccines. They're still talking about the future with that.
Oh, I can take the rest. So we're still going to maintain social distance in the fall. I think we all knew that, but I think it's going to be to a lesser degree. And so we're looking at kind of what classroom spaces will look like in terms of having more students in the in-person classes that we're making available. So maybe smaller distances other than 6 feet in between students. That'll change for maybe some classrooms that have desks in them, but for things like auditoriums and buildings, 2 seats next to each other, or even 1 seat in between, still aren't 6 feet. So some stuff's going to change. Some things will look the same. And then she talked about two kind of the bigger things going on that were obviously way before pre-COVID, but are still happening despite everything that's going on. Dean Wilkinson touched on the church property that is like across from, like diagonal from the soccer field and like across the street from Deacon Place, and just what that kind of space is going to look like potentially for student organizations, as Dean Wilkinson mentioned, and then maybe study space if possible. And then just she talked about the idea of residential college. I don't know, Tim, if you want to touch on what we're supposed to know on that in terms of what the school is looking for long term.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is I'm not sure that we have a definitive answer right now. And what I mean by that is we were pre-COVID, we were full bore moving forward as part of recommendations that came out of the Commission on the First Year Experience on creating a residential college model. Dartmouth University, Rice University, I believe Vanderbilt are examples where, I don't want to use the Hogwarts comparison because I know that makes a lot of faculty and staff upset. It trivializes it, but essentially the idea that when you come to campus, you are all on some level placed into a house. And with that comes various curricular and co-curricular opportunities, enhanced faculty experiences based on your house, and enhanced experiences, organizational or enhanced events and experiences within that house. Trying to create affinity around that house, if you will. And whether you eventually move off campus, you still remain part of that house. So that was a model that we had very seriously looked at and we're moving towards really beginning developing. And then obviously COVID set that back. So I believe right now, preliminarily, the goal is to pick that back up. But obviously first we want to sit and make sure that that's something President Wente wants to see. But that's obviously a tremendously collaborative effort. I think a lot of students, or one of the things I want to make sure is clear is We see it as a complement to the fraternity and sorority community, not as a way to get rid of the fraternity and sorority community. That's been something that's come up quite a bit. I think we would want to figure out how to weave Greek experiences into a similar intellectual experience and affinity experience as we're looking at residential colleges and kind of processing while it's a beneficial. A lot more is going to come in the next year as President Wente gets here.
Thank you for that explanation. That's something that Vice President Rue said herself, is that it's just kind of like creating an equal social opportunity for people who may not be in Greek organizations, but not trying to squeeze Greek organizations out of the social life on campus. And she also extended just kind of her email whenever we need it. So if you ever have any questions in between the meetings that Dave and I go to, please shoot them our way. And she's very receptive and open to have any feedback that we can bring her. Thanks.
Just want to add, if anyone wants to learn more about the residential community conversation, it's mentioned in President Hatch's report that you all have in your email from the Diversity, Equity, and Community Committee. Sydney, you had a question.
Oh, it might be included in the report, but whenever this is implemented, will like non-freshmen also be sorted into houses versus just like as you come in, or will it be like a phase in with each incoming class?
We didn't even get that far. There's all sorts of different ways that it's done. I mean, obviously we would have to phase in existing students. I think it's safe to say the conceptualization and development of this is going to take a few years, especially with President Wente coming in and then us having to pick it back up. So I would guess if you're a sophomore or first year student, you may see this because it's going to take us a few years.
Other questions for Campus Life? All right, D&I.
Ali already pretty much covered it, but Deacon Dining appreciation is happening. So like helping PR repost stuff would be really helpful. The only other thing I forgot to put on here is that the police advisory board focus groups are happening starting next week all the way throughout April. I can resend the sign up link in the announcement group me, but that is still something people can sign up for.
Questions for D&I? Alrighty, Judiciary.
Everyone, so we are continuing once again the archival review process. We just keep scanning documents and we're not going to stop. As Braden mentioned, we met with Ali Clayton earlier in the week. We're working with CER on trying to improve portions of the WFU website, particularly at the FAQ section, among other things. And of course, tomorrow is the David Petraeus event. Sign up if you haven't done so already. Should be great. Thanks.
Questions for Judiciary? Okay, Public Relations.
Hi guys, so we're gonna be posting this week about Deacon Dining, and we're also gonna post our Senator Spotlight. So congratulations, Kate Pitterly, for being nominated for that. We're gonna be posting that tomorrow. We're also gonna send the link in the chat for Senator Spotlights for this upcoming week, so feel free to nominate them. Thanks, Janine. Nominate just people in your committee who've been doing a really good job, who've been busy, who've been taking initiative, whether in student government or in other clubs. And this is also the design we came up for t-shirts. So that's what they're gonna look like. Just have a basic white front with the side pocket, and then that Wake Chapel design on the back with Wake Forest University. So we'll probably be sending them out. Thanks, Dave. We'll probably be sending them out probably next week with the form of how to sign up, what the prices are, where we're ordering them from, all those details probably next week or later this week. And then we're also going to be posting for Faculty Appreciation Week next week, David Petraeus event tomorrow, and I think that's about it. Oh, also the elections packet is now up on the website, so if you ever need that, that is also up there.
Questions for PR? Yeah, Ethan.
We settle on just short sleeve shirts, or are we also doing the long sleeve shirts?
Yeah, the majority wanted short sleeves, so we decided we were going to do short sleeves, and it also will probably be cheaper that way too.
Other questions? All right, physical planning.
Hey guys, so Ticket Dining Appreciation Day is on Friday, as I already mentioned, but if y'all are free, would love help like passing out cake squares. We're continuing to plan for Earth Week, and just a reminder that'll be April 19th through the 23rd, so it should be really fun. And thank you to everyone who helped paint the Earth Month banner. There's a picture of it on our slide. It turned out really, really cute.
Questions for physical planning? All right. Jackson Butler did that little @Lake_SG, and he's pretty proud of it. So shout out to Jackson and also to everyone else who did it. Sock.
Hey guys, I hope you're all having a fantastic start to your week. I know I am. We had office hours just this past hour. Got to hear some great feedback from folks, a lot of questions, and clearly some things that we can work better on, and that just student engagement and just in general we can all work better on approaching and kind of answering for them. So a lot to work on from that. Yeah, we reached out to the exec boards of every active organization regarding their status during COVID as well. So waiting to hear back, hopefully some good feedback there as well. Haven't heard a ton yet. So if you're part of a student organization and you have something to say, make sure you reach out to your leadership. Yeah, Amber.
Yeah, and then other than that, I don't know if Tim had mentioned this last week, but I think he did kind of say that the chartering process is starting to move along more in the upper administration. So get excited for that.
Questions for SOC? Alrighty. Kate and Jackson, anything?
Hi everyone, hope y'all are having a great day. Basically, I don't want to repeat anything Tim said, but you guys all got the email about kitchens and gathering sizes, so that's very exciting. I will definitely be using the kitchen starting April 1st, so really, really hyped for that. Otherwise, we're planning for an upcoming meeting with Dr. Handwerk about the COVID-19 dashboard, and that's pretty much all for us.
Any questions? All right, I will stop sharing my screen and we can move through the rest of our agenda. Give me 1 second. Do we have any new business? Yeah, Victoria.
I don't know if this is new business, but there's something else about the elections I forgot to say. Can I say it now? Is that okay?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. So I think some of you have made forms and I didn't get an automated email that you made a form, so I had no idea. I think I've gone through my drive and collected everyone's, but if from this point forward you make a form, if you could just text me so I know to be looking for your form, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Meredith.
Just going off that, I was just going to say, if anyone has any questions about the election as well, I'll put my number in the chat and just feel free to reach out to me.
Any other new business? Or election committee members who have anything else to add? Constituent concerns? Caroline Wright, and then Rory Britt, and then Armand Busker.
I have one about leftover pit swipes. I don't know. I feel like I've heard about this in the past, being able to donate either Deacon dollars or some unused meal plan things at the end of the semester. So if anyone has any information on what you can do with your leftover meal swipes, let me know, because I had someone who was interested. They have 90 left over and they're going to have some at the end of the semester.
So I can speak a little bit to that. I can't remember if it was beginning of this semester or beginning of last semester because it's all kind of blurring together, but I know we met with Mr. Wise on that, and he said that he was it's improbable because he doesn't want students to wait to the end of the semester to decide they want to donate their swipes, that he'd rather implement a program to where students could decide they want to donate X amount of swipes at the beginning of semester, because he says that's more pro humanitates than saying, oh, I have all these leftovers. So unfortunately this semester doesn't look like we'll be able to do donations, but it's something we're trying to implement for semesters going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rory, your next.
Yeah, so this is I am the constituent this is the constituent concerns me. I just had a quick question, and this is something I brought up in exec in our chat yesterday, but I know that there was a meeting yesterday to kind of go over some of the COVID guidelines that exist today, and in particular go over where we stand and where we're looking to go in the fall. And I know that this was sort of covered a little bit, but there was a discussion about the fact that we're going to be moving back onto campus into green, which means masks and distancing, and that I do kind of understand. But there's also the sort of the conversation about 2/3 of our campus. That's the unofficial number that was mentioned during the meeting, that 2/3 of our campus is currently vaccinated, and that's 5 months before we start up classes next year. And I guess I was just sort of wondering, and this is unfortunately probably more for you, Tim, if you know this, but like what the university's thought process was on kind of making that kind of decision like 5 months out before, you know, we really know where we stand, considering especially that the vaccination rate, which is probably, especially after the new CDC information that was released yesterday, that seems very in support of vaccines working very well. Sort of what the thought process was on making that call right now, and if there was any flexibility, if obviously vaccination rates and things look very high, at reducing that when we came back onto campus.
Good question. I can tell you I'm not part of the steering committee, so I'm not in the room when those decisions are made. But I can tell you from my perspective, it makes sense to think the most conservatively right now and put that out there and have us working from that place, because then we're adequate. Let me tell you, there was nothing more disconcerting in, you know, March, April, May, June of not knowing where we were going. And I mean, that's not germane to Wake Forest. That was every college. That was every organization in America. So I think we are better off kind of planting our flag in the ground and saying we are going to start here from the baseline, because if we have our baseline in place and the news gets better, we're operating from a foundation. You know, and that's my take on things. That is not from anybody else. You know, I think we would rather give guidance now, and then if the news gets better and vaccination rates continue, let's face it, there's still enough unknowns out there that I don't think we want to put ourselves in a position to take a more liberal stance, for lack of a better term, and then have to pull back on that. Does that make sense? And again, this is my conjecture. This is not coming from anywhere else.
Your conjecture is definitely appreciated. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely.
Thanks, y'all. Pilar, did you have something to respond to this specifically?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo Tim and some other things. Like, as an RA, as well as like someone who's like noticing things on campus, like it is very easy to get caught up in the fact that like being optimistic about vaccines and like being excited that a lot of people are getting vaccinated on campus. But that, one, does not mean that you should stop wearing your mask. Two, does not mean that COVID is over. And three, for lack of a better term, just really does not mean that like you can start doing a bunch of things that you probably shouldn't be doing. It's frustrating because it could mean that like you are increasing the likelihood of variants of COVID and stuff, and there's a lot of risk with that. And so I think even that's why Wake is being really cautious for this coming semester, because there's just so much unknown about this still, and why the CDC hasn't said, oh, once everyone gets vaccinated, you can all stop wearing your masks, because that's not the reality of the situation. So just in general, like as representatives, senators, people in student government, to be cautious of the language you use around students on campus. It's good to be optimistic and hopeful, but it's also good to be cautious and also continue to like express that mask wearing and following the guidelines is still really important.
Armand, did you want to say your concerns still, or?
Yeah, in this case too, I'm the constituent that's concerned, but I found out today in our SOC meeting, and my apologies if this had already passed in conversation, but I found out that in all likelihood, we're probably not going to have the food trucks in the coming semesters, especially next year. And we discussed in our meeting, I was wondering if there's any way that we could bring them back, maybe not the same capacity that they were in this semester, you know, with everything being free, but maybe if we could use some of our old goals towards it, or food dollars, or if we could arrange for some type of symbiotic relationship where the local food companies themselves, they bring like coupons or something so that maybe students can go into the city and actually buy the food from their actual restaurant. Just any way that we could bring them back, because I think a lot of students really liked it this semester. And for me especially, I definitely thought it was a big pull to be on campus and out and about on the plaza.
I can speak to that a little bit. Armand, I'm laughing only because I predicted a student rebellion when there was the realization that food trucks were not a normal thing at Wake Forest University. Listen, we can get creative. I mean, I've enjoyed Tuesday food trucks. I think it would be fun to bring back a version of it. It absolutely has been a student bonding experience. I can just tell you that the way we've been doing it with having them be completely free is not inexpensive. But I think a well-designed, safe application involving multiple organizations with activities around the food trucks would be received favorably. And I can tell you President Hatch was out there last week and he asked the same question. So I would encourage student governments to get creative and include other organizations, and we could probably continue it in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
President Hatch and Armand Boskert single-handedly bring back food trucks. I see it now. OGB.
It'll happen, don't worry.
Nick Briggs.
Yeah, I had a question from a few people come up to me. So I'm currently a resident at Deacon Station off campus. And so I've heard, or it's been brought to my attention a few times from a few different people that like Wake is planning on potentially taking over the running of Deacon Station or the oversight of it in the fall. And one of the concerns I've heard from people is the receiving of emails for people who've already renewed their lease for next semester, stating that they might be relocated from their current like housing situation still within Deacon Station, but might have to move because of the potential placement of RAs. So I just wanted to see like if that, like how that was happening or.
Caroline, do you have something to respond to that, or you have a separate concern?
I'm concerned with that because I signed a lease in Deacon Station earlier in the semester, and we were told that we were going to get the same unit number. It's like me and someone else is moving into a unit that has 2 juniors in it right now. And then when I signed the lease, they said we might not have that unit, so I kind of have the same concern.
Tim, any thoughts on that?
I got nothing. I would say reach out to Dean Clifford.
Okay, physical planning, can we reach out to Dean Clifford?
Yes, I could be sure and do that. And I know I'm a Deacon Station resident right now, and I know they just got a new manager, so I don't know like if that's going to change anything, but she literally started like last week or something. So if it's under new management, I don't know what's happening with that.
Okay, and just on like a side kind of like additional note for Deacon Station, I'm not sure if like the rumor is true or not that Wake Forest has gone ahead and like acquired the rights to Deacon Station, or if they're planning to. But if so, I was wondering if they would have any form of like new measurements next year, maybe some form of like gate access similar to how Deacon Place operates or not. But yeah, I don't really know anything about that. So
yeah, I'll be sure and reach out, and then I'll of course give updates with any information I find out.
Thank you. Any other constituent concerns? Yeah, Jack Lewis.
Hi, so I think this question is directed for Tim more so, and I'm sorry if I touched on something. I wasn't here for the first half of the meeting, but this is about the balconies in the freshman residence communities. And I know I touched on it a couple weeks ago, and you said that you were going to handle it pretty conservatively and they probably weren't going to reopen. But I think a whole lot of us are a little confused that like the kitchens are reopening in a way and everything, the gatherings outdoors are going from 50 to 100. And that the balconies still haven't reopened and that there's only 7 COVID cases on campus. So I was wondering if there was some way that we could make the balconies like the kitchens or something, because they are a big deal for the freshmen that live in these residence halls.
Jack, I don't have a good answer other than to say, you know, I think I said this a few weeks ago that, and this is not disparaging the urgency of the balconies, but the way I heard it described in our reopening plan when it comes to smaller spaces is the university is looking for spaces that, for lack of a term, you know, the cost benefit analysis, what gives the most widespread use to students, as well as what's an area that can be more safely monitored. again, I can't speak to how the kitchens are being reopened, but I think it's safe to say it's going to be on some sort of reservation system. I am speculating here, but I think the feeling is probably that balconies, the size, plus the work that would go into creating a system of reservation and monitoring to keep them from becoming overcrowded. I mean, I can't speak to a first year. I'm going to ask this question to you all. I can't speak to residence hall balconies, but based on physical distancing, what can we get on a balcony? Like how many people?
Like less than 20, maybe not even more than 12.
So I can't help but wonder, a pool on Johnson's. What does that even mean, Drew?
Last year, freshmen put a pool on Johnson's, but I'm going to speak from a Res Life point of view. I know they're looking at it, but the thing about kitchens is, if I'm not mistaken, every dorm has a kitchen. So it gives everyone access to something, and not every dorm has a balcony. But I did speak to the facilities manager, Wesley Todd, earlier, who expressed that they're still looking into it, but they wanted to get the kitchens up and running because they know that expands access for all students, including international students. And so everyone can have access to cook meals, but I know they're still looking into it.
And Jack, that speaks to, what can the university best maximize return on investment for right now in terms of student usage. So I think they're going to concentrate on kitchens, give it a couple weeks. I wouldn't say give up on it, but I think some constant checking in by some SG members who are close with student government can assist.
Other constituent concerns? All right, any announcements? Yeah, Ethan.
So about a month ago, I had mentioned that I was working on a custodial appreciation program with some of the RAs on Quad 1. We finally secured funding for that. And so what we're hoping to do is basically develop some little care packages and goodie bags for our custodial crew at Wake, and just leave them a kind little message along with those bags. If you'd like to leave a message, I'm going to send a form to Caroline after Senate's done, and you can just leave one there and we'll attach it to one of the bags, and that'll be it. So we'd appreciate if you join in on that. Thanks.
Any other announcements? Thank you, Ethan. That's great.
Sign up for Dating Deacons. It's so fun. I'm kidding. Actually, please sign up, and it goes to a good cause.
All right, so sign up for Dating Deacons, write a letter for the custodial staff. Any other announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Anyone opposed? All right, have a happy Tuesday, everyone.